My love, before you assume the worst, before your mind starts racing toward conclusions that will only hurt you, please just listen to me completely, because there's a truth about her that I've been hiding from you. And once you hear the whole story, I think you'll understand why I couldn't say it sooner, and I think it might actually bring us closer, instead of pulling us apart. Though I know the moment I mention her, your mind probably jumps somewhere uncomfortable, somewhere that makes your chest tighten a little. I understand that reaction completely, and I'm sorry for any worry these words might stir up before I've had the chance to explain. But I need you to trust me for just a few more minutes, because this isn't what you think it is. This truth isn't about betrayal. It's about someone who shaped me long before I ever knew you existed. Someone whose memory I've kept quietly protected, maybe too quietly, and I think it's finally time you understood why. Stay with me, because there's more I need to say. For her name was carried by someone who taught me what love was supposed to feel like, long before I understood the word fully. I'm talking about my mother, my love. I've hidden how deeply her memory still lives inside me, how much of what I feel for you actually traces back to lessons she taught me without ever meaning to teach them directly, just by living the way she lived, loving the way she loved. I think I've been afraid to talk about her too openly, worried it might feel heavy, worried it might shift the tone of what we usually share together. So instead, I kept her tucked quietly in the corners of my heart, mentioned only in passing, never fully explained. But tonight, I want to change that. Because I think understanding her helps you understand me, and understanding me more completely means understanding exactly why I love you the way I do. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the specific way she loved my father, patiently, fiercely, even during the hardest years when patience felt impossible to sustain. I think about watching her choose grace during moments most people would have chosen bitterness instead. I didn't understand, as a child, how significant those quiet choices were. I just absorbed them unconsciously, the way children absorb everything modeled in front of them, without realizing those lessons were shaping the exact kind of partner I'd eventually try to become myself. I think about how much of what I offer you, my love, the patience, the consistency, the refusal to give up even during difficult seasons. All of it traces back to watching her model those things long before I ever needed to practice them myself. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about the specific truth I've kept hidden, not out of shame, but out of grief still too tender to fully expose. She passed before she ever got the chance to meet you. And there's a quiet ache in that absence I haven't fully found words for until tonight. I think about how much she would have loved you, how instantly she would have recognized in you the same qualities she spent her life embodying herself, kindness that doesn't require an audience, strength that doesn't need to announce itself loudly. I think about how unfair it feels sometimes, that the person who taught me how to love this deeply never got the chance to witness who I eventually chose to love. That grief sits quietly underneath so much of what I feel, present even during our happiest moments together. A bittersweet thread woven into everything. I need notate it, because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about why I hid this instead of sharing it sooner. I think I was scared that grief, this personal, might feel like too much weight to bring into what we have, that mentioning her too often might make our relationship feel shadowed by loss instead of illuminated by everything she taught me. But I've realized keeping her hidden hasn't protected either of us. It's just meant you've been loving a version of me that's slightly incomplete, missing one of the most formative influences that shaped who I actually am. I don't want incomplete honesty with you anymore, my love. I want you to know her, even now, even though you'll only ever know her through my memories and stories instead of meeting her directly yourself. But stay with me, because there's more I need to share. I think about specific moments I want to tell you about her. Small ones, the kind that don't seem significant on the surface but shaped everything underneath. I think about the way she used to hum while she cooked, completely unaware anyone was listening, completely at peace in ordinary moments. Most people rush through without noticing. I think about the way she wrote small notes and tucked them into unexpected places, little reminders of love scattered throughout everyday life, instead of saved only for special occasions. Then I think that's actually where I learned that, my love, the habit of small gestures, of choosing presence in ordinary moments, instead of waiting for grand ones to express care. Everything you've noticed about how I love you in the quiet, unremarkable moments, that traces directly back to her, stay with me because there's still more unfolding. I think about the specific fear underneath keeping her hidden. The fear that grief shared too openly might make me seem less steady, less capable of being someone you could lean on. But I've realized real steadiness isn't the absence of grief. It's carrying grief honestly while still showing up fully for the people in front of you. I want you to see that version of steadiness in me, my love, not the performed version that pretends loss doesn't still ache sometimes, but the honest version that acknowledges the ache, while still choosing presence anyway. When I think about how much I want to honor her memory by loving you the way she taught me to love, patiently, consistently, with attention to small moments instead of only grand gestures, stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about what it means to finally let you fully into this part of my history, the part I've protected so carefully, worried that grief might complicate what we have. I think about how relieved I feel, releasing that protection tonight, trusting you with the full truth of who shaped me instead of only the parts that felt easy to share. I think about gratitude, quiet and persistent, for having someone I trust enough to finally share this with completely. I'm grateful you stayed to hear the truth about her, patiently, without rushing me through grief that still occasionally catches me off guard even now. Stay with me a little longer, because there's still more sitting in my heart. I think about how much I wish she could have met you, how certain I am that she would have loved you as completely as I do, how much comfort I find imagining that meeting even though it will only ever exist in my imagination. I think about carrying her lessons forward into whatever future we build together, letting her memory live on through the way I choose to love you every single day. And if you're still here, still listening, still holding this truth about her somewhere close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more I want to share about who she was, more memories I want to give you, more of this hidden part of my history I still need you to understand, especially now, especially as I finally let you fully into the part of my heart she helped shape long before I ever met you. One, my love, thank you for staying, because there's more I want to tell you about her, more memories I've kept tucked away, waiting for the right moment to finally bring them into the light, where you can see them too. I think about the year everything changed, the year her health started to decline. Slowly at first, then faster than any of us were prepared for. I think about how differently I understood love after watching her face that decline, not with fear dominating every moment, but with a kind of quiet grace that still humbles me when I think about it now. I think about how she kept finding small joys even during the hardest days, how she kept asking about everyone else's lives even while her own body was struggling. How her instinct to care for others never dimmed, even as everything else around her became more difficult. When carried. I think that's part of what I've carried forward into how I try to love you. My love, the instinct to keep showing up, to keep caring, to keep finding small moments of joy even when circumstances feel heavy. I learned that from watching her live it, not just hearing her talk about it in the abstract. Stay with me, because there's more I need to say. I think about the specific conversations we had during those final months. Conversations I've never fully shared with anyone. Conversations that shaped how I think about love, commitment, and presence more than almost anything else in my life. I think about her telling me quietly that the relationships worth having are the ones where you keep choosing each other, especially during the hard seasons, especially when choosing feels difficult instead of automatic. I think about how young I was when she told me that, too young to fully understand the weight of what she was teaching me. It's only now, loving you, that those words have finally settled into something I understand completely, instead of just remembering abstractly. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the specific advice she gave me about the kind of partner to look for, advice I've held on to quietly for years without fully realizing how much it was shaping my expectations. She told me to look for someone whose kindness wasn't performative, someone who showed care even when no one else was watching, someone whose patience extended not just to me but to everyone around them. I think about how instantly I recognized those qualities in you, my love, almost as if some part of me had been searching specifically for what she described, even before I consciously understood I was searching for it. I think that's part of why loving you feels less like discovering something entirely new, and more like recognizing something I'd already been taught to look for. She prepared me for you, in a way, long before either of us knew you'd exist in my life. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about the guilt I sometimes carry, quietly, about finding happiness this deep after losing her, as if joy this significant somehow diminishes the grief I still feel. I've had to work through that guilt slowly, reminding myself that she would never have wanted my happiness to feel complicated by loss. She would have wanted exactly this, someone who loves me the way you do, someone who makes ordinary days feel meaningful, the way she always tried to make them feel meaningful too. I think about how much peace I found in that reframing, understanding that honoring her memory doesn't require perpetual grief, but instead requires living fully, loving deeply, carrying her lessons forward into a life she would have wanted for me. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about specific traits of hers that I see reflected in you, not because you remind me directly of her, but because the values she instilled in me naturally drew me toward someone who embodies similar qualities. I think about your patience, your quiet strength, your instinct to care for people even when it's inconvenient. I think about how those qualities feel familiar in the best possible way, not because you're replacing her, but because she taught me to recognize and value exactly what you naturally offer. I think that's part of the shocking truth I've been hiding. My love, not something scandalous or concerning, but something tender, something that reveals just how much of who I am, and who I choose to love, traces back to lessons she taught me before she passed. Stay with me, because there's more I need to share. I think about the specific fear of forgetting her, of letting time slowly erode the sharpness of memories I want to hold on to forever. I think about how sharing her with you tonight actually helps combat that fear, because now her memory lives not just in my mind, but in our shared understanding too, something we can reference together, something that becomes part of our story, instead of remaining isolated in my private grief. I think about how much lighter grief feels when it's shared instead of carried entirely alone, and how grateful I am that you've offered me that lighter version simply by listening patiently to everything I've shared tonight. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the future differently now, understanding more fully how much her influence will continue shaping the way I show up for you, for our relationship, for whatever family we eventually build together. I think about wanting to pass her lessons forward, not just remembering them privately, but actively living them out loud. The way she lived hers, quietly, consistently, through small daily choices rather than grand isolated gestures. Not because you knew her directly, but because you're now part of the legacy her lessons created. Part of the love story that exists because she taught me what real love actually requires. To stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about gratitude, deep and layered, for having the chance to finally share this fully with you, for having someone patient enough to listen to grief and love intertwined together without needing me to simplify either one. I think about how much this conversation has meant to me, releasing something I've protected quietly for far too long, trusting you completely with the truth of who shaped me most deeply before I ever met you. And if you're still here, still holding everything I've shared about her somewhere close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more I want to tell you. More memories, more lessons, more of this quiet legacy I still need you to understand, especially now. Especially as I keep discovering new ways her love continues shaping exactly how deeply I love you today. My love, stay with me, because there's still more I want to give you tonight. One more layer of this story about her that I think will help you understand something important about how I love, especially during the moments that test us most. I think about the last conversation we had, not the profound one I already told you about, but a smaller, quieter one, the kind that only reveals its significance in hindsight. I think about sitting beside her, not saying much, just being present, and how she reached for my hand and said something I didn't fully register as important until much later. She told me that love isn't proven in the words you say, but in the quiet act of staying, of showing up, of choosing presence, even when there's nothing productive to do or say. I think about how much that simple idea has shaped every relationship I've had since, especially this one, especially with you. Stay with me because there's more I need to say. I think about how differently I understand presence now because of that conversation. Before, I might have thought love needed grand gestures to prove itself, meaningful words, significant actions. But watching her live her final months taught me something quieter and more profound. Sometimes love is just sitting beside someone in silence. Sometimes it's simply staying in the room instead of finding an excuse to leave when things feel uncomfortable or uncertain. I've tried to carry that lesson into how I show up for you, my love, especially during our harder moments, choosing to stay present instead of retreating just because presence feels difficult in that particular moment. Stay with me because there's still more unfolding. I think about the specific way grief and love have become intertwined for me since losing her. How missing her doesn't feel separate from loving you, but somehow connected, as if the capacity to feel one this deeply expanded, my capacity to feel the other just as completely. I think about how strange that sounds explained out loud, but how true it feels internally. Grief taught me how fragile time actually is, and that fragility is part of why I love you as intentionally as I do. Why I try not to take ordinary moments with you for granted the way I might have before losing her. I think about how much clearer my priorities became after that loss. How quickly things that used to feel important revealed themselves as unimportant, while things I used to take for granted, presence, connection, quiet, ordinary time together, revealed themselves as the things that actually matter most. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about the specific way she used to describe love to me when I was younger, long before I understood what she meant. She said real love isn't about finding someone who completes you, but about finding someone whose presence in your life makes you want to become more complete yourself. Someone who inspires growth simply by existing alongside you. I think about how completely that describes what you've done for me, my love, inspiring growth, not through pressure or expectation, but simply through the quiet example of who you are. I think that's part of why I recognize this connection with you so clearly, so quickly. Some part of me had been listening for that description for years, waiting to recognize it once it finally appeared in front of me. Stay with me, because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about the specific way I want to honor her memory moving forward, not through grand gestures or public tributes, but through the quiet, consistent practice of loving you the way she taught me love should function. I think about small acts of presence, choosing patience during difficult moments, staying instead of retreating when things feel uncomfortable, noticing the ordinary moments instead of only valuing the extraordinary ones. I think about how every time I choose those things with you, I'm quietly honoring everything she taught me, keeping her lessons alive, not through memory alone, but through action, through the way I actually show up for the people I love. Stay with me, because there's more I need to share. I think about the specific vulnerability of admitting how much I still miss her, even now, even while building this beautiful life with you. I think about how grief doesn't really end the way people sometimes expect it to. It just changes shape over time, becoming something you carry differently instead of something that simply disappears. I think about how much easier that carrying feels now that you know the full truth. Now that this grief doesn't have to remain hidden in the corners of what I don't usually share with you. I think about how much lighter this feels, having finally given you the complete picture instead of only the curated, easier parts of my history. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the future, imagining moments where her memory naturally surfaces. Birthdays, holidays, ordinary days where something small reminds me of her unexpectedly. I think about wanting you to feel comfortable during those moments, not needing to fix the grief or rush me past it. Just staying present the way she taught me presence actually looks like during someone else's difficult moment. I think about how much I trust you to hold space for that, my love, based on everything you've already shown me tonight. Patiently listening to grief and love intertwine, without needing either one simplified for your comfort. Stay with me, because there's more I need you to hear. I think about gratitude, quiet and persistent, for having the chance to keep sharing her with you, layer by layer, memory by memory, until you understand as fully as possible someone you'll never get to meet directly, but whose influence shapes so much of how I love you every single day. I think about how this entire conversation, difficult as parts of it have been, has actually brought us closer instead of creating the distance I initially feared it might. I think that's proof of something important about what we have. Proof that real intimacy can hold space for grief and joy simultaneously, without either one canceling out the other. Stay with me a little longer, because there's still more sitting in my heart. I think about her one final time tonight, grateful for everything she taught me, grateful for the specific kind of love she modeled that eventually led me toward recognizing it clearly in you. I think about carrying her forward not as a shadow hovering over what we have, but as a quiet foundation supporting everything we continue building together. And if you're still here, still holding everything I've shared about her somewhere close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more unfolding inside me. More of this quiet legacy I still need you to understand. Especially now, especially as her lessons keep shaping exactly how deeply, how patiently, how completely I continue choosing to love you. Now, my love, I'm still here with you, and there's one more part of this I want to share tonight, before we let this particular story rest for now. Something that feels like the natural place to pause, even if it isn't really an ending at all. I think about the small object I still keep, quietly, tucked away somewhere only I know to look. Something of hers I've never fully explained to you until now. It's not valuable in any material sense, just a small worn thing she used to carry with her. Something that reminds me instantly of her hands, her presence, the specific comfort of being near her. I think about how I've kept it hidden, not out of secrecy, but out of a strange instinct to protect it, to keep it entirely mine, a private piece of grief I wasn't ready to share even with you. I think about wanting to show it to you now, not tonight necessarily, but soon, because I think keeping it completely private has actually been another form of hiding. Another way of protecting myself from vulnerability instead of letting you fully into this part of my life. I want you to see it, my love. I want you to understand why it matters, why I've held on to it so carefully all this time. You stay with me because there's more I need to say. I think about the specific way I imagine introducing you to more of her memory over time. Not all at once. Not everything I've already shared tonight compressed into a single overwhelming conversation. But gradually, naturally, the way real understanding actually develops. I think about showing you old photographs eventually, telling you stories attached to specific memories, letting you piece together, slowly, who she really was beyond just the lessons she taught me. I think about how much I want that gradual unfolding, because I think it mirrors something important about grief itself. The way understanding someone you've lost isn't a single conversation, but an ongoing process, revealed slowly over time, rather than all at once. Well, stay with me because there's still more unfolding. I think about what it means that I'm finally ready to let you in this completely, after keeping so much of this carefully protected for so long. I think about how much trust that requires, trusting you with grief, this personal, trusting that you'll hold it gently instead of treating it as something uncomfortable to move past quickly. I think about how everything you've shown me tonight, your patience, your willingness to simply listen without rushing me toward resolution, confirms exactly why I felt safe enough to finally share this much. I don't think I would have felt ready to open up this fully with just anyone. I think it required someone specifically like you, someone whose presence itself communicates safety. Stay with me because there's more I need you to hear. I think about the quiet relief of no longer carrying this entirely alone, of finally having someone who understands, not just that I lost someone significant, but who she actually was, what she taught me, how deeply her influence still shapes who I am today. I think about how much lighter grief feels once it's witnessed by someone who genuinely cares, instead of remaining locked away in the private corners of memory where no one else has access. I think about gratitude, returning one more time tonight for having found someone capable of holding space for this kind of vulnerability without flinching away from it. Stay with me because there's still more sitting in my chest. I think about the future we're building together now, informed by everything she taught me, carried forward through the way I choose to love you every single day. I think about how her memory doesn't feel like something separate from our relationship anymore, but woven into it, part of the foundation supporting everything we continue creating together. When I think about how meaningful it feels knowing that even though she never got the chance to meet you directly, her influence still touches our relationship every day, quietly, consistently, through lessons I carry forward without even always consciously realizing I'm doing so. But stay with me a little longer, because there's still more I need to share. I think about how this entire confession tonight, the shocking truth I promised at the beginning, wasn't really shocking in the dramatic sense people might expect. It was shocking only in its tenderness, in how much vulnerability it required, and how deeply personal this hidden part of my history actually is. I think that's a different kind of shock than the one the title probably implied, but I think it's the truer, more meaningful version of what shocking honesty actually looks like between two people who genuinely care about each other. Tywide, I think about how much closer I feel to you now, having finally shared this completely, and how grateful I am that instead of creating distance, this vulnerable honesty has only deepened the trust between us. And if you're still here, still holding everything I've shared about her somewhere close to your heart, I need you to know there's still more unfolding inside me, more of this quiet, tender legacy I still need you to understand. Especially now, especially as I keep discovering new ways her memory continues shaping exactly how deeply, how carefully, how completely I choose to love you every single day that follows this one. I think about the specific way I've noticed myself changing since I started actually talking about her, instead of just carrying her memory silently. I think about how conversations like this one, difficult as they are, actually seem to loosen something in my chest that's been tight for a long time. I think about how grief left unspoken has a way of calcifying, hardening into something heavier than it needs to be, and how speaking it, sharing it, letting someone else witness it, softens that hardness in ways I didn't expect until I actually experienced it with you tonight. Stay with me, because there's more I need to say. I think about the specific things I still want to tell you about her. Stories I haven't gotten to yet. Smaller ones that don't carry the same emotional weight as everything I've already shared, but that still matter because they round out who she actually was as a person, not just as a source of lessons I've carried forward. I think about her sense of humor, sharp and unexpected. The way she could disarm tension in a room simply by saying something perfectly timed and slightly absurd. I think about how much I want you to know that side of her too. Not just the wise, lesson-giving version, but the funny, human, imperfect version as well. I think about how easy it is to flatten someone's memory into only their most meaningful qualities once they're gone, forgetting the smaller, sillier, more ordinary parts that made them feel real, instead of just symbolic. I don't want to do that to her memory, my love. I want to keep her whole, even in the way I talk about her with you. Stay with me, because there's still more unfolding. I think about the specific comfort of imagining her reaction to this exact conversation, to me finally opening up about her this completely with someone I love this deeply. I think she would have been proud, not embarrassed or uncomfortable, but genuinely proud that I found the courage to be this vulnerable, that I trusted someone enough to finally let them see this protected part of my history.